to the call on Instagram. And the first thing I said to him is, how was school for you? That's the first question. How was school for you? And he said it was really challenging. You know, he's at uni now. And he actually came to do, we had a stock market, a trading class. And he actually enrolled on that. But you could see clearly that he had special needs. You could see he had a need, which was, he's from the Congo. So you could see clearly he had a need. So it wasn't about him coming to learn to be a stockbroker. It was more about him coming to a place where he would feel welcomed and have friends. So what his misfortune is at uni, he's now met up with 4 guys who claim to be his best friends, who were grooming him all the time to put this money into his account. From HMRC, where they've done that now. They've put the £15,000 into his account, and now they're pressuring him to give it back, even though the bank has blocked it. So in his mind, he's feeling the weight of the responsibility. And now he literally, I just got off the phone with him about an hour ago, he's saying to himself, how can I give them this money back? And I'm saying, well, you know, you can't give it to them because the bank has blocked it. They received it fraudulently. They put it into your account. It's not their money. But his narrative is, how can I now give them
back the money,
what they want?
Illegal money.
Illegal money. So now what I'm thinking he's going to do, I'm thinking he's going to go into the bank and try and negotiate with the bank. Yeah, I bet you we're going to have this conversation tomorrow. I predicted it. He's going to go into the bank, which is what he does not. I've advised him, do not go into the bank. He's going to go into the bank and he's going to try and withdraw the money. And one of them will probably be outside. And so that's the reality of, you know, working with people who,
vulnerable.
Sorry?
Vulnerable
People, yeah. And, you know, even though they don't appear vulnerable, even though they tell you they're not vulnerable, it's for you to be astute enough and have sensory acuity to actually see that. And you know me, Vanessa, when I'm working with people, I'm like, something's not right. You know, 1 or 2 people in the, yeah, right. So for this young boy though, you know, the challenge is, how am I going to tell him that it's okay to ignore all of those text messages? And they text 20 to 30 times a day. Wow. How is it okay for you to ignore those text messages and possibly even tell your parents? He hasn't told his parents. You know, he's 21-year-old. He hasn't told his parents.
Well, I know one thing for sure. We're now at 6:30, so we're on time now.
Yeah.
I'm going to welcome you, welcome Jesse, and welcome Max. You're 3 individuals that when you lot come together, you make sense from different perspectives how we can engage with the local community. But because this is about autism, I think it's so important why I had Jesse and Max come back 1 year later under COVID, because the government have not included a lot of the decision making when it comes to the young people with autism. So the session today is going to be looking at social media influences and keeping safe. I gave Jesse and Max, I told them they can speak about 20 minutes, but we can just go with the flow because, as you know, lots has been happening over the last 6 months in regards to control, in regards to mixed messages, in regards to on the uncertainty of what's going to happen next. Everybody thought children would be going back to school in September, but over the 6 weeks, a lot of things have still not progressed for a lot of the autistic people. And as this is about autism, we've got to look at the autism spectrum condition for families. And we've got to remember, not every autistic person can walk down that road on their own safely without being noticed if they are on diagnosis as well. No one is thinking about them, just thinking that autistic people can do the things they want to do, but there's no safety put in place. So like Nathaniel, as you know, my son, he's going to put his head here in a minute.
Nat.
Hello.
Yeah, so as you know, when it comes to Nathaniel, and if I never had Max and Jesse around as well, It shows sometimes if I need that support for somebody who understands what autism is from an autistic perspective, it's so important. And I think a lot of parents, let's talk about mothers, single mothers right now, who are not aware that if their sons are at home and they are exhibiting violent behavior, negative behavior, and they're going to say at 16, I'm going out and you can't stop me, because what's been said on television is very different to Snapchat. I'll leave it there for you to start it on Snapchat, social media influences. So Paul, you can start it, and then Jesse, and when Max is ready to speak, how we can engage about social media influences.
Absolutely. Absolutely. For me, you know, having 2 children under the age of 14, in a period of time which I have never imagined would be the case, which is this quarantine, this lockdown, this, you know, limited society, my children are exhibiting strange behaviors in terms of their behavior, in terms of how they feel emotionally. And that concerns me because, you know, the work I do outside of the house is often never reflected inside the house. So, you know, in a normal situation, in a normal environment, I would go out, do that work, and then come home. Everything's hunky-dory, which is a word somebody told me this morning. I haven't heard it in years. Hunky-dory, and I'm able to move on. But for me now, I'm finding that the challenges at home, and, you know, before I go into it, my children are what's, quote, able-bodied, right? Yeah? And I, as a, quote, normal parent, I'm finding it really, really challenging engaging them in just simple things. I'll give you an example of that. My 13-year-old has not cut his hair since lockdown begun. He will not go to the barbers. He will not go to the shop. He will not go to the park to meet his friends because of the fear of the unknown, which is COVID-19. So as a parent, for all the values that I exhibit and tell him, listen, I'm your parent. I'm telling you it's safe to go to Greggs. Go to Greggs. You need fresh air. He will not go. So his hair now is literally out of control, right?
Yes, he can relate to that.
And there's a point to me saying this, right? So this is a, quote, normal household. You know, let's not even get started about the relationship pressures, you know, where people are going through domestic violence and all sorts of other strains because of COVID. But I'm talking about what's quoted in the media as what the, quote, nuclear family is dealing with during COVID. So when I start to imagine all the children or the young people that don't do those things normally, that are challenged with going to Greggs on a day-to-day basis, that don't go on the train, the tube, that don't wear masks, that don't listen to the propaganda, which is being fed to us every single day, how they see the world. And in terms of how they behave, because, you know, when we received that information in about society has to wear masks now, and I heard yesterday that they're about to bring in a new law that says that you can't dance in public. And I'm thinking to myself, so we're now at a stage where we can't dance in public. So the child who was first of all afraid to even go to Greggs because he felt that, you know, he felt different, is now feeling, wow, we're living in a society where we can't even dance. You know, they outlawed singing a while back. This thing is ridiculous. So somebody who has autism and who has, let's say, for example, Nathaniel, yeah, who has built up at the basis of what I call life skills and confidence over the last few months, which is now, you know, he's now experiencing this whole COVID episode in his life at a time where he should be going out and experiencing what life is really about. You know, we had this conversation many times, me and Nat, because he's quite a deep thinker. And we had this conversation about how the world has changed and how, you know, feeling just normal or feeling a part of the world now has become a real challenge. You know, 1 or 2 of the projects that we had mapped out, which were normal projects, are now becoming projects that you know, I think me and Nat spoke about it the other night. We were like, oh my God, when are we going to get back out just to do a bit of filming? And we're not even able to say, I'll meet you tomorrow because of the restrictions. So when I start to think of how Nathaniel is feeling in terms of this lockdown, it's completely different to how I perceive it. And so my perception of this lockdown is control. And I can imagine that Nathaniel's perception of it is out of control, you know, leaving him feeling that at the age he's at, where he should be experiencing those fundamental things that make you a young person in society, he can't do that. Nor can he even make plans to actually do simple things like finish his music video. And the other thing I really wanted to say, and I'm using Nat because he's sat right there and he can hear me, is what really concerns me is his transition back into education. That's what really concerns me because, you know, is he expected to just be dumped back into education? Having all of this COVID, all of these restrictions now, you know, how is he going to get to school? Is he going to feel safe in school? You know, is he going to feel safe with all the restrictions that are going to be put in place for him and in terms of society? So that's really where I am with all of this thing. You know, we're going to touch on social media tonight because I know that with the impact of COVID, a lot more young people are spending a lot more time online. And it's really weird because it's almost as if we have become one with the internet. You know, even by virtue of us talking here on Zoom, it really demonstrates how much the world has changed in a short space of time and how we have become used to automation over actually seeing people, hugging people. And that really worries me. So, you know, his transition back to school and his social media use are two of the things we often talk about. So I'm gonna kind of leave it there just for a second, but I really want to dig deep on this whole social media thing. And I know I've got two of the best people in the place to talk about social media and the misuse of social media. And it's Max and God, yeah. Sorry, my mind's gone clear. I was looking at this bit of water dripping over. I was thinking any minute now this entire room's going to explode. But yeah, so we need to really speak about how the impact of social media has done a couple of things. It's carved out a new future. I had a conversation with Vanessa yesterday and she was like, oh, didn't you know that you could do this on Zoom and that on Zoom? And I was like, no, why would I just automatically know that? You know, unless I've indoctrinated myself to become a Zoom zombie. And so we had this really weird conversation where she looked at me really strange to say, how is it you don't know how to communicate over Zoom? I thought you were a communicator. So for me, the whole use or the extended use of social media is something that makes me, it really does make me worry about tomorrow. It really does make me worry about where young people are with the influences of social media and what impact it's going to have tomorrow. You know, when the world goes back to normal, Jesse, you know this, look at if it ever goes back to normal, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How big a part will social media play? And so Max, I'm going to ask Max first. Jesse, I'm going to get back to you. I'm going to ask Max first what you think about this.
You're muted.
Max.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, Max.
Very well. Not very well by the looks of it. No, I think you're right. I think the way that we communicate is changing drastically, even the way that we work, you know. So, you know, the biggest challenge I've found working through the whole of COVID is communicating over online. You know, I can't just get up and go speak to somebody at work, or I can't just go up and speak to my manager, you know, if I'm having issues with things. And that's a big communication barrier for me, because a lot of the time I'll be asked to do something and I necessarily won't know how to do it or what to do or understand necessarily what they're asking me to do, because I need that kind of verbalization.
Yeah.
And I find that really tricky. In regards to social media, obviously people are going to be using it more because, let's face it, when we're bored, we do have a gander online and we have a look at things, and that's dangerous because we read things that aren't true and then we share it and then other people read it. You know, the amount of things that I've seen, you know, around, I suppose, Donald Trump, for instance, you know, and all the stuff that he's promoting, you know, like America, no, we're low, you know, we haven't got the highest, you know, COVID death toll, but some people will listen to him because he's in a power of authority and he's in that position of power and presume that he is telling the truth. But actually, you know, he's not. So I think there's a massive shift, you know, a massive shift to come. Whether or not it's, you know, for better, I'm not sure. I mean, we've always had this conversation anyway, is the internet a good thing? You know, and we've had that before. We've been forced to use it now in the situation we're in. You know, before it was a choice, now we've not really got a choice, you know. You know, there's probably people I could have worked with before that probably could honestly say, you know, I don't use email or I don't use this. But now you want to open a Zoom account, need an email. You know, you want to go on Facebook and keep in touch with people because you can't see them anymore. You've got to go on Facebook. And I always say the two biggest companies I think have benefited from the whole of COVID is supermarkets and anything internet. You know, users have gone through the roof. Twitter users have gone through the roof. Instagram users, you know, you name it. Anything internet based is just going to go through the roof because ultimately people want to stay in touch with each other and people do get bored. And you know, ultimately that's what's happened. But obviously there is dangers with it. I'm sure that we'll discuss later on as well. But I think the biggest issue with social media, I find, is people think that what they share is private. And, you know, as soon as you publish something that is in the public eye and you know, you'll have people that say, oh no, but you know, I check my privacy settings on Facebook and it's this and it's that. And then you'll find out that actually they haven't set it the way that they thought they set it, and every kind of person can see what they've said. You know, I've known, you know, my nan, bless her, is a brilliant example. I mean, she doesn't really know how to use Facebook, but she will message people, but she will post on their wall, and she will think that's a private message. So, you know, imagine though the danger of that. You know,
absolutely.
Nan's not going to say anything horrible, but can you imagine if you just said, oh, I don't know, I spoke to Paul today, you know, what an idiot kind of thing, and I've put that on a wall, you know, and everyone can see it, you know, that's kind of danger of it. So it's important, obviously, that we educate people how to use social media and actually, you know, show them the dangers of it and the risk to it. And it's not just as easy as, you know, as these companies make out. Sign up with us today, you know, a click away kind of thing. Because something like a click away and we have all your data. You
see, that's what really worries me. And I just going back to when I first met you, Max, and you were doing a talk on social media and the dangers of social media. And I never did tell you this, but you motivated me because, you know, I own this social media platform now. It's a safeguarded social media platform called Foam. And you were one of the people that inspired that movement. And you inspired that because up until then, I never really thought of social media as a dangerous tool. I never really looked at it as, you know, what are we doing with our data? What are we giving away for nothing? And you just quite rightly said it. You know, if you lock somebody in a room and the only thing in that room is a loaf of bread and a monitor, they're going to go to that monitor and they're going to try and access the world. And this is the situation that we're in now. It's almost like, because we are locked down, you are forced to give data which you would never have given.
No.
For example, even with the way we're communicating today, you know, the use of this a year ago, you would have questioned the amount of data that you would have had to have given. And not only that, the fact that it's really, really intrusive in your operating system. You know, this particular platform here that we're using and the emerging ones are all about basically living in your system. And so they, even when you turn off or sign out, they've still got access to what you're doing. I think that's, yeah, so you were one of the people that motivated me to start this Safeguarded platform. And I never did tell you that. I'm telling you that now. Yeah.
I'll tell you something as well. Thank you, Paul, as well. But there's one thing that I do as well with my camera, and people will choose to laugh at me for it or whatever, but it's that.
Yep.
Always cover a camera, always. And when I was doing a Sophos architect course for, and that's to do with cyber security, because obviously I work full time in IT, so I'd done a Sophos course. They actually give out a Sophos slider that goes over the camera, because again, that's another thing. You know, you sign up to a website, you put all your details in. You know, say it's a fraudulent website, they've got your IP address, they can then access that, they can then access your camera, and you know, you're stuck. You don't even know that you're being watched. So I always recommend, you know, even if it's a little bit of duct tape, you know.
Let me see if I've got any, or some wrap your computer in tin foil. But you're absolutely right. We don't know, and so for the young people, or let's stick to the context of autism. One of the things I really wanted to ask you, Max, was how much of a change you've experienced in the last year in terms of the way you work and the impact of, because I know you're you know, when we last spoke and we did a couple of things together, you're very much a working guy. Yeah. You're very much out there in the workforce, despite anything. You're in there, you're doing your part. How has that affected you, you know, with this whole lockdown thing? Are you still going into work now? You're working from home?
So again, what I've found is a lot of the companies I speak to, you know, they have decided actually, do we need an office? You know, we've seen that working from home works. A lot of employers were, I think, scared to try that. And that's what annoys me with like the reasonable adjustments with autism, because if you just said a year ago, I would find it better as an autistic individual to work from home. An employer would probably turn around and go, no, you can't do that. That is not a reasonable adjustment. However, because there's been a global pandemic, now they've gone, oh, well, this
great idea.
This needs to happen now. And they've been forced into the idea, as before, they probably didn't want to, because they thought, you know, that people aren't going to do work, they ain't going to be bothered, and they deemed it as a risk. But now they've seen it works, because they've been forced to. A lot of people are actually going, actually, we could save some money here. Let's not bother with the office anymore. Let's get everyone to work from home. You know, it's going to save them money, fuel, you know, all this stuff. So that was one thing that annoyed me. You know, simple, reasonable adjustment that seemed silly from an employer point of view back then is now
normal.
But just you know, the biggest issue I've had is just I miss that face-to-face interaction with people. I really do. I need to see a face to determine mood, to determine you know, are they annoyed with me? Are they not? You know, just to pick up a vibe, to pick up something. And when you've got text, you can perceive it in so many different ways. And unfortunately with me, I will probably pick it up as a negative, because, you know, I can't read it. You know, I can't read the face. I can, if someone says to me, oh, I don't know, Max, do this, and I see them in person, I can pick up a vibe, you know, in person. But in text, you could be, Max, do this, or Max, do this. Or, you know, so many different tones and so many ways of interpreting it in your head. And that's one of the biggest things I have faced through all of this, is just that, how am I reading things? And again, it's change of routine as well. You know, I used to like the fact I used to get up in the morning, get dressed, go to work, you know, come back home, and then it's cool off time. You know, it's relaxation. What I find tricky now is you're working in your living room all day, and then when it's time to shut off and cool down, you're still in your living room. And that can be really hard, just to kind of turn off, because it feels like you're still at work, even though you're not.
Yeah, yeah.
That's another thing that I've found hard. It's like, you know, nowhere's home, nowhere's safe, nowhere's like my own personal bit of time.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. You know, it's so tricky. And if you'd have said to me a year ago, Max, you know, next year there's going to be a global pandemic where your OCD might come in favour for once,
you would have said that was completely balmy.
Yeah, but it is mad. You know, it is really, really mad. And obviously, I feel terrible for the people that have lost their jobs through this, and people that have sadly passed away. And you know, there is also an element where you think, well, actually, in retrospect, I'm one of the lucky ones, you know, because, you know, it could be a lot worse. But I think you're right. What you said earlier to Jesse, is this becoming a new normal? And that worries me, because I'm not sure if I like the new normal, you know.
I don't like it. I don't like it. I think it's been forced upon us, you know, and I think at some point they're going to refer to it as evolution. You know, when you touched on the whole people feeling, why would I go to work? Why do I need to go to work? Then it becomes all about, well, why do you need to stay at home in your sitting room, in your front room? And that's the real scary part, is that, you know, when you said about that time when you come home and you chill out and you leave work behind. Now you're almost working, because your laptop's always there.
Yeah.
You know, your folders, they're there. You can see that there is no chill out time. We've actually got to the stage now where we've become really, really good pretenders. So we pretend that, that's work. That's all work. Now let me watch Netflix. No, but it's still there. It's there. And if that becomes the new norm, I think society, you know, I don't call it evolution. I call it some stuff that I wouldn't really talk about on here. But you know where I'm going with it. It's something that I think we have to push against, because for me, I do a lot of film work, so I'm always out. I can't be in. If I'm editing, I'm in, and I'm forced in. But other than that, I'm out. So for me, it feels completely unnatural to be at home, even though I've got a loving family there, who can start to become a loving, annoying family 8 or 9 hours a day. And so, yeah, so I mean, I fully understand you. And I thought I'd ask that question because, you know, I work for myself, and I don't know what it's like to have a manager sending you emails every 15 minutes, telling you this is what you need to do, and you not being able to interpret that email as, you know, when I used to work, I used to go in and say, oh, my manager's he's in a good mood today. But by email, you can't tell. Yeah, you can't tell. So yeah, I fully understand that.
I think, you know, as well, just touching on, like, you know, you saying that the work is now, you know, at home as well. You know, I used to know so many people that would go home and work, you know, again, that was their choice, or, you know, work was so overbearing that they had to get stuff done. But now, if you think about it, the analogy of leave your work at home, leave your work at work, and you know, keep home at home, it's impossible now, you know, because I know what you're like, Paul, and probably everyone else is like this in this chat. If your work is literally a walking distance away from you, on that table, on that shelf, on that desk, and you think, oh, you know, I could just do that really quickly, and then 20 minutes turns into an hour, Now
procrastination. Yeah. We become natural procrastinators. Do you remember, just before I move on to Jesse, because I used to work in the city, and one of the things, it was a really pressured job as well. I really hated doing it. And that's one of the reasons I don't do it anymore. But one of the things I used to look forward to is knowing that, you know, I leave out to work at 8, it's going to be a pressured day. After that, I'm going to go off into the city, meet some friends, have a drink, release that pressure of work, go home and get ready for the next day. Now it's like there is no difference. It's, you know, you finish your work, you have a cup of tea, and you might as well look at some more work.
Yeah.
And it's like that constantly. And, you know, we're in a society now where there's just, I think I read the figures the other day was that 720,000 people, you know, now unemployed. It's ridiculous what's going on because of this COVID. But let's move to Jesse. Let's see what I know Jesse's waiting there. I really want to find out what Jesse's been going through because I know Jesse, again, as well as Max, is really, really active. And you know, being stuck in, being locked down, it's not for me. And I know it's not for you guys. I know it's not for you guys. So where's Jesse? Let's have a word with Jesse.
Hi, my name is Jesse McQuilkin.
Hey, Jesse.
Autism advocate, somewhat former personal trainer, mentor, gamer, YouTuber, everything you could possibly think of. I have a few notes to talk about social media, but I will talk about this briefly about how COVID kind of affected me, and not just affected me, but other autistic individuals or things. It is like people don't realize it's not just the social aspect of COVID. For example, or the lockdown. For example, eating habits have changed. For example, I'll give you a strong example with me is I had a very long-term sustainable diet that I was doing very, very well on, which got my weight down to a significant amount. And because I don't really care about losing weight, it's about sustainability and how much can you stay at that point. That's really the key, right? This is really come from my personal training background. So really what I've noticed is, and it's not just me, it's other people's eating habits from my mother right up to my auntie, is that, like, for example, if I ever wanted to eat like something that we will say is like junk food or something like that, right? Or we will say like a biscuit or things of that nature, I normally would eat that outside, and I'll keep that outside of the house. Like I'll keep that stuff because everything in my house is basically healthy. Now, because of COVID and because of the lockdown and things of that nature, and not wanting to be outside so much and wanting to lock down, what tends to happen is you're in literally a lose-lose situation. And let me give you an example why. You have to go out to get those treats, right? Or whatever it is, right? If you keep those treats in your house, the likelihood of them disappearing is very likely, right? Yeah. So now I see a lot of people have gained weight, right? Yeah. I'm not blaming them, right? This is completely sorry. And I spoke to like former personal trainer clients, and they're telling me, I don't understand this. I don't know what the hell is going on. And I'm telling them, look, I can't help you, right? And I'm meant to be the expert because of how hard this is. I told them, look, you're going to have to be very, very strict.
Yeah.
Or you're just going to have to accept that you're going to gain a bit of weight unless you've got that willpower, right? And willpower is not infinite.
It's really difficult.
It's very, very difficult. And I've noticed this with like a lot of just autistic people, but neurotypicals, right? Because my system pretty much worked. It worked for inside and outside. And then boom, all of a sudden, football is cut off. I have to use my home gym. I have to wake up 6:30 a.m. in the morning to work out, things of that nature, right? And I'm just like, oh my God, this is more than it was, because what I was doing didn't even really have much effort to it. It was just all automatic. But another thing as well is the social aspects of sports has completely gone out the window, right? I can't meet my friends and play football with when I watch football on the TV, I see no fans, right? And I'm just like, this is really weird, right? I was watching the Champions League last night, and I was watching PSG win, and I was like, this is a huge game, but there's no fans to make it huge. And it was so strange how, and this is more of the social aspect, is so strange. Exactly, like the atmosphere has changed, you know? So those are the type of things as well. I do feel as if, I honestly, like, when you're talking about school, I don't think I don't think children are going back to school the next month. I don't see it. And it's not because
as much as they're saying. So as much as they're saying that,
yeah,
you don't think.
I don't think it's gonna happen, because what's gonna happen is there's children who have underlying health problems. There's children with autism as thing, and parents are just gonna rebel. Because let's be real, like, parents care. The number one, like, priority of a parent, even though I'm not a parent, is the safety of their kids. So they're going to be thinking, you're saying this is so deadly, but now you're giving me mixed messages, and now you're opening all up these shops. The parents are going to be like, what? I ain't going to be bringing my children to school. You're crazy. So
can I ask you a question there? Just if I just come in at that point there. Sometimes I'm really annoying when the conversation's good, but I really have to ask you this question, right? So this whole notion of adults wearing masks, and children don't have to. I don't get it.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
I will tell you something about the face mask, right? I said this to one individual, right? I even put it on the post on Instagram, right? If these face masks are so effective towards the virus, right? And why is it that China, that is very well known for wearing face masks for pollution, created a massive outbreak? No one can give me an answer. If it's so effective, why are we wearing it? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I look at the evidence that is there and what is reality, and I'm just thinking this makes no sense. Like,
it makes no sense.
This face mask stuff, no one's going to get me to wear a face mask, because I'm not going to put myself in situations where I have to wear a face mask, right? For example, the way I have adapted is I'm not going to any shops, right? I'm ordering it in my house, right? If I need shopping from Asda, I've ordered them into the house. There's now 3 slots, plenty full. That's that. If I need exercise, I go out to the park or I train indoors.
But isn't this the danger? What we're talking about
it's dangerous. But
because this whole online culture is becoming so normal.
I don't really consider it online culture. Let me explain. I still talk with my parents. Well, technically it's still online, but I still talk with my parents indoors, things of that nature. And when I go to the park, there is some people that I do know who go to the park, so I still have that social interaction. And I try, and the only time I really go online is really for if I want to have a joke or just get on with the autism work or things that I need to say. And that's really that. Like, most of the time I'm just reading books or just listening to videos or things of that nature. But I've kind of talked on a bit about how it's affected me, because I think I've covered it. I just want to talk about the pros, because I've noted some stuff down.
Go for it, yeah.
Yeah. So the platforms I want to talk about is social media platforms. I'm going to add something in because you're talking about data. So I'm just going to improvise on that. It will still be the same time limit anyway. It won't be long anyway. Yeah. I timed it, rehearsed it. So I want to talk about social media platforms like WhatsApp, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, and also Facebook, right? I don't have a Facebook, right? Actually, I kind of do, but it's like a ghost. It's a ghost account. I don't really use it anymore, right? But basically, there was something, because I have a background in IT, there was something that was very, very alarming to me when I was on Facebook, right? Where I deleted my Facebook, right? Vanessa remembers when I deleted Facebook. I think I deleted it twice at one point, right? If I was to be honest to you, right? If it wasn't for this autism work, I wouldn't be on social media. All my social media accounts would be gone. I can't stand social media, right? I just adapt to it, right? I make it work for me instead of the other way around. Now, Facebook, what really bothered me, because I understood IT, is I deleted my Facebook, and over a couple of years, I opened it back up. Now, here's how you know Facebook got your data, right? How is it that you've deleted it? You've made your account with a new email, right? And all of a sudden, the friend suggestions are people you know. Anyone ever thought about that?
Very good point. The
So
IP address, maybe
they
IP
have your
address.
data.
So they
The
have
location, where everything, they all got that. And another scary thing is if you go before you delete, it says, do you want to download your data? So they got your data, right? And this was a time when Mark Zuckerberg was basically put up into court. This was public. And now all of a sudden, you notice when you go on the websites, it says, accept all cookies before you go into website.
Yeah.
And if you don't accept it, it kicks you out of the website.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why, right? So that's another thing with Facebook. That's why I left there completely, right?
Gosh.
Another thing, and either way, I'm compromised anyway, right?
Yeah.
Another thing is TikTok, the breach of security on TikTok and autism abuse. Even if you hate Donald Trump or if you like him, I'm not going to give my personal opinion on that because I don't really want to make it political. Really, Donald Trump said that I think it was to do with China and talking about how it had an effect on the American citizens' security, right? That concerns me. Now, here's a question I basically present to people in the UK. If Donald Trump is basically saying that China has social media that is basically breaching your security and is basically spyware, why are you still using it in the UK? You understand? We haven't banned it here, but
it's a very good point.
You know, I don't use TikTok because I knew what it was about. I did my research. It's a Beijing, it's on Wikipedia, you can look up. It's a Beijing-based app, right? And they don't even have TikTok in their own country. They have something different called Douyin.
So we've gone past the stage where we used to send spies out, and now we just download the app.
There you go. But hey, that's just up for you. Like, I'm just out of it for information. If they want to do that, they could do that. I ain't. Right? The other thing as well was with TikTok was the autism. There was a challenge called the Autism Challenge.
Yeah.
This made me very, very angry when I heard about it. I want to make a quick shout out to everyone that participated in taking down that challenge and basically getting an issue reply. It's just pretty much proven that, and not everyone, but when they think of autism, they think at the bottom or down feeders of society. You know,
yeah.
I don't have that image. I know people around me who know me don't have that image, but there is still that stereotype that, yeah, we are basically at the bottom or things of that nature. You can look at it in media, things of that nature, right? So that's something I want to talk about as well. Fake news on WhatsApp. This is a big one that I even have to tell my mom, look, like, stop sending me the stuff, you know, because I know that there's certain things that's very easy to verify on WhatsApp. And this affects, and the thing is this fake news is also being spreaded around social media when it comes to autism stuff. Like there was something going around saying that they found a cure to autism on WhatsApp, right? And I know there's no cure for autism. If I could find it, I'll try and get through to Vanessa to make it out. I was like, how did he find the cure for that?
That's right. Do you think right?
This is the vaccine, basically.
Yeah, this is my I think I saw something about that. Do you think that we have become so hungry for new information that in the lack of real knowledge. We just create stories.
I agree.
And then we just put it out there. And then these social media platforms just seem to support those what they call allegories, right? Something like that. Like we just create stories. There's a cure for autism. There it is. And then everybody just spreads it without even thinking.
Exactly.
What am I doing? What am I actually spreading? Because by spreading it, sensationalism, Karen says, by spreading it, you that's what you're actually doing. So we have to be more aware about it. And so that's a really interesting topic. I love what you're saying there.
And the thing is with that is you have to look at two sides of the story. You have to do your research. For example, I don't even listen to the mainstream media.
No,
you know, I don't even listen to it. My news is the news. I actually get my own news. That's why when I speak to people and I tell them, oh, I didn't know about this. Oh, I didn't know about that. For example, there was times where, I'm not going to say their names, but there was times where there was some incidences with stop and search in the UK. And basically some of what let's say the mainstream media was presenting wasn't the full story, right? I'm just going to keep that there. But that's just, I'm not going to go into that because this is not really what it's about. But I just want to say, you have to look into things before you basically support it or believe it, you know? So
or share it.
Another thing as well is sensitive information being sent on WhatsApp. I think that a lot of people are getting desensitized to really, really like traumatic stuff, you know, and people have to be aware of what they're sending on WhatsApp and how it would affect the other individual. For example, I even tell my own mother, like there's times where, you know, where you have it on WhatsApp and it says download to see the video, I don't even bother with it. I said, unless it's absolutely something important, I don't bother. I don't want to see things like someone getting stabbed or things of that nature being spread around WhatsApp. I don't want to see that. What I actually want to see is how you're going to have an action to prevent these type of things from happening. That's why I don't really like people spreading. And the other thing as well is the way you know these stuffs are sensitive is when you actually post it on Instagram or things of that nature, there's actually a cover that says, do you still want to view it? This is sensitive information. Now, with WhatsApp, you put that out there, there is no filter. So it could be anything, you know, and people are not aware of that, right?
Very good point. Very good point.
Another thing I want to talk about is the vulnerability of Snapchat and people knowing where you are. Like Snapchat, I think Snapchat is, I don't think it's really a good app in terms of its design. It was so easy for me to track an individual's location and actually know where they are and pass that information onto someone else. It was so easy for me. And the fact that I could delete that app and get it gone within 30 days and there's no trace, that's a very frightening aspect.
Do you know what, Jesse? Can I just pause you? Let's see what Max thinks about that point.
Go on, Max.
I know Max speaks a lot about it. Let's see what Max thinks about it. Because for me, I know what my belief system is around Snapchat. I think it's the work of the devil. You understand? I think anything as accessible and as free to use as that, which you can see by the complexity that, you know, they've made it really, really simple and fun, but it's really dangerous. I just want to see what Max thinks about that. Max, are you there?
Yeah. So just one thing as well, which just on something Jesse said, the thing that always gets me is you were saying about the sensitivity and how Instagram will pick up it's a sensitive video. What always got me is if they know it's sensitive, why don't they just remove it? You know, they know it's going to be something horrific. They know it's going to be something that shouldn't be on their platform. So they've got a filter there, which is letting people know this is sensitive. Are you sure you want to see it? I swear Facebook got in trouble years ago because they were sharing beheaded videos. People getting beheaded.
I remember, yeah.
And then they were going to remove them all. But now they've just added a sensitive filter, which makes no sense. It's almost like going, we've done our job. We've warned you it's going to be horrible. click on it anyway. It's just, it's ridiculous. But
do you think it's one of those things that I'm just going to ask you from an autistic perspective? If you see something, because I know myself, if I see something on a filter that says, beware, this could be sensitive, the first thing I want to do is click it. So is that what it's like? If you just want to click it and see what it is?
It's reverse psychology, isn't it? It's,
yeah.
And unfortunately, human nature, and I hate to say it, and people don't mean to, we really don't, but we are always interested in the pessimistic and the depressive side of things. It's the same reason we watch Jeremy Kyle. It's the same reason we watch EastEnders. We like to see other people in distress, and we don't mean to, but sometimes it can make our own lives feel better. It's a source of entertainment. And unfortunately, that's just how the human brain works. So when we see something on Facebook or Instagram that says sensitive, we automatically go, I wonder what that is. Oh, what could it be? Oh, well, I'm not going to know unless I click. And then we see something that actually we probably didn't want to see. And Jesse's quite strong-minded to actually say, I don't want to see any of that, and even if there is a sensitive button, I know it's going to be horrible and going to look. But some people like myself, we just want, it would bug me actually if I hadn't. But it's the same thing like YouTube as well, or these things that people do to get people to share things. Like if you don't share this, you'll get 5 years bad luck. If you don't do this, your mum's going to die and things like that. And people really know how to work the brain into making them do something. If someone said to you, give me a £5 or 5 years of bad luck, you turn around and go, jog on, mate. But essentially, when you're sharing something, inadvertently, you are giving that person £5.
Yeah.
They're getting revenue of it. They're getting things off of that, so. But just quickly as well with the Snapchat thing. Snapchat, I think, is probably the worst app out there. I understand the whole stuff with TikTok and that's going on at the moment, but I think there's many aspects to TikTok and Facebook that are very parallel, and the fact that TikTok's getting banned, I sometimes look at Facebook and go, actually, why aren't you guys? Because it's quite on par. But obviously, unfortunately, Trump has an issue with China and them with our data, and he's decided to obviously ban it and gave them, 30 days, I think it is, to sell to Microsoft. So whether they do or not, don't know. Will it be in better hands with Microsoft? Don't know. But an interesting thing, and then I'll just get on to the Snapchat thing finally. Have you seen on a website when it says, for instance, tick here if you're not a robot?
Yes.
A lot of people say, what is that? What does it do? And a lot of people will think that the answer is because a robot isn't clever enough to click. And that isn't the answer. The actual answer is when you tick that box, you are giving that website permission to go through all of your search history, to see what you've logged onto, your recent activity, because then what it analyzes is if you are a robot and if it's actual suspicious behavior that a robot would generate, or if it's real behavior. And the only time you get the second option, which is click on a fire hydrant or click on a bus stop, is when the analyst has actually come back and going, we don't know. And that's when it will pick up whether or not you are. But I never knew that until about a week ago. And I thought, how scary is that? That literally...
That's really scary. I didn't know that. That's really scary. Yeah, go for it, Jesse.
When you're talking about the robot thing, Max, the thing with that is, I think I knew about that a long time ago. I can't remember when. Is all you got to do is look at the actual name of the thing is actually called CAPTCHA.
Yeah.
It's actually literally telling you, but it's written in a different way. And I thought, yeah, I know exactly what this thing's doing here.
That's cool.
That's
and they,
why
they told you that, yeah. And they tell you it's capture.
VPNs. So that's the reason why. Wait, let me just, because I've got about three or four more talking points, and I'm pretty much done, right? And then we could do whatever, because I know we end at 8 o'clock. We have ample enough time to get through that. So I talked about that. Another thing as well is the promotion of illegal street parties and unsafe house parties. This is a big one. I've noticed that since COVID has happened, I've noticed a trend of a lot of more illegal street parties and a lot more house parties. Now, what really concerns me about these house parties is they say that, COVID is this contagious or infectious disease or virus that affects, people. So if I'm getting a group of people that I don't know, that haven't been tested, haven't been tracked or traced or whatever they call it, right? And they're coming into close contact, because there ain't social distancing in these house parties. They're dancing, they're doing all these things, and you don't know if one of those people have came in or out with COVID. You don't know, right? This is why I stay well away from them until the foreseen future. Now, I want to talk about also a story about the safety of these house parties. Unless I know who these people are, and unless I know who I have with me, I'm not going to them. The reason why is, if you put your location on Snapchat, it's public to everyone, right? It's public to everyone. So what could happen is anyone could come in and say, yeah, I was invited to the party, yada, 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 unless they don't have proper security. Now, this could be the worst case scenario. You don't know if that person has COVID. You don't even know if that person has a knife, right? Let's keep it real now. And the thing is, you hear all these stories about illegal street parties, someone got stabbed or someone got shot, it's on the news, right? Now, the thing with this is, my problem with this is, because I've experienced actual violence during a street, not a street party, it was a house party way before COVID, right? This was like 7 or 6 years ago when I went to a house party in Bromley. And what happened was, and this is why you got to keep your possessions with you in these house parties as well, or dress in a certain way where all your stuff is kept close to you. Because what happened was, I put my stuff down somewhere, someone stole it and put it upstairs in the room and basically hid it, right? And lo and behold, that same person had a knife on them. True story. Now, I had the party came in, the police came in, all of this stuff, right? And what happened was that the same guy that basically stole my stuff, I actually ended up having a fight with them on the bus heading way home, right? Literally a fight. Now, thank God that I have a background in martial arts at a very young age, right? Because that person had a knife. We didn't use it at the time. And we basically had a fight on a moving bus. It was on a 119 bus, and it was a full fight going on that bus, right? And then he had to basically come out. Next day I got home, I told my mom, the police knew about it, everything, things of that nature. I wasn't charged with anything, things of that nature, because I was basically in self-defense. Now, I'm not saying this could happen to anyone in a house party, but what I'm saying is, you got to be very careful of the actions before you go to the house party, when you're in the house party, and when you come out of the house party, because anyone could come in. Like, you don't know if that person's a gang member, and another, as they call them, ops these days, could have another knife and want to stab them and put yourself in danger. People don't really look at it this way. This is how dangerous Snapchat is. Because if
it's very dangerous.
You've literally opened up that whole house party to the whole city. You understand?
Let me tell you about something I just saw on social media yesterday.
Yeah.
It's going around on WhatsApp. The irony, right? So it's going around on WhatsApp, and it's called the Million People March. So I think it's next Sunday. Yeah, the Million People March, and I saw it, and it looked wonderful. You know, it's a peaceful march, a million people. And then I thought exactly what you thought there. I thought to myself, wow, is this a really good chance for them to say that because of this or these massive events like these house parties organized through Snapchat and other social media platforms, that this is a really good reason to have something like phase 2? You understand what I'm saying? Because you cannot advertise a 1 million person march, which means you need 2 million meters of space in order for that to work in line with what the government standards are. So that's an immediate breach. So I'm concerned about, you know, the way that's spreading around, again, social media. And what that's saying is, you know, it talks, I think, very, very lightly in it about social distancing. But how is that even possible?
Exactly.
How is that even possible if you are not being monitored? You know, if you don't have to wear a mask, if in fact that 2 meter rule becomes, you know, they're playing music, there's no way it's going to be monitored correctly. So that really worries me, and that's being spread around social media and Snapchat as we speak.
And I've got 2 more to go, and I'm pretty much done.
Good.
Right? Because I see that we got about half an hour left, and we could do whatever. Here's another thing that really bothers me. I've seen this on YouTube. I've seen this on Instagram. I've seen this on almost every platform. Autistic people doing it. Everyone's doing it. And it's rating people via numbers. I think this one is very, very dangerous and can destroy a lot of people's self-esteem, right? Because you know, even as an autistic individual myself, you know, sometimes we feel as if we're just a number in the system. If you feel where I'm going with this, right? So now we've got individuals, you know, they're young, you know, I've seen people from different age groups right up into their 30s, right up into their teens, talking about this person's a 1, this person's a 2. I rate this person as a 4. I rate this person as a 5. And they're showing literally images of these people and rating them via numbers. Now, and some of them are not even given permission to even be put on these platforms. So if I go on social media and I see someone rating me, even though that they probably would do it won't affect me, but there's other people out there who are very different that way, right? And someone sees a picture of me and they rate me as a 1, how's that going to affect their self-esteem? You've basically, the world is already insecure as it is. There's already a lot of, you know, insecurities that people, you know, people say, oh, you know, oh, I don't have insecurities. Everyone's got insecurities. It's just people don't show it and they just mask it, right? Everyone's got them. So I just don't get, and it's damaging because as the youth are going through a lot, there's a lot of social pressure going on in social media, presenting people to be a certain way or live a certain way or show something that they're basically not, or be something that they are not. Now, the other thing as well, this kind of segues into my last talking point, is the bad influences in social media during COVID, right? A lot of people are very, very bored. A lot of people don't have many things to do. So they look at these social media challenges, they look at all these type of things on social media, if it's TikTok, whatever, and then they start doing that out in the public or sometimes in their house and not realizing that is affecting people outside and is potentially spreading COVID even more. You know, I spoke about something, I tried to explain something. I have a theory, right? You know how we talk about the school to prison pipeline, right? I have a new one, and this is to do with music, right? I call this the rapper to prison pipeline. And let me explain what this is. and I got this from you, Paul McKenzie, right? I was watching your video where you were on a green screen. You had the prison, and there was someone, you know, with the bed, and you're talking about how someone can get up to 99. I think they're 99 years of being
your criminal record.
Record now.
Yeah.
Here's what a lot of people don't really look at, and this is what I talk about bad influences on social media, is they see people come out of prison, they immediately see them in wealth or presume as wealth, with all these cars shortly, you know, chains, whatever. And to be honest, I even have sympathy for the rappers, believe it or not.
Yeah.
I actually emphasize on them, because there is no way for some of these musicians to rehabilitate their lives. You understand? Once they put that 99 years on you, right? And that's another reason why you got to stay out of jails. You stay out of jail. Now, they give you all this money, they give you whatever, and they say to you, hey, look, we'll give you this X amount of money, and all you got to do is just rap about certain things, right? And you ain't got nothing to worry about. Now, the person that's coming out technically doesn't really have a choice. Let's be real. He can't get himself a job. He can't make money. So he's going to have to take that contract so that he can survive. Because the prison ain't going to support you. Things of this nature. So I just want to put a question to you, Paul McKenzie, right? Is some of these rappers, do you think they are intentionally wanting to rap these lyrics, or are they being paid to rap these lyrics? People never thought about this. And this is why I come up with the term, the rapper to prison pipeline.
Did somebody pay you to ask that question?
No.
Right, because last night I did a show, because I do a night show called The Elephant in the Room. Yeah. And on that show, we were talking about this new video called WAP.
I know about that.
Yes, and have you seen it? Yeah.
Yep. Very
right. So we tore that apart, and we had a really in-depth discussion. We had over 500 viewers. It was really in depth, and we spoke about this whole signing your life away, and the fact that when you get into the music industry, it's not really about producing talent. It's about perpetuating an agenda. And we spoke about this last night. It was really interesting. So when you talk about the rap to prison pipeline, you know, it's not a 99% chance. It's a 100% industry. Yeah. When a young man starts rapping and idolizes somebody who is one of his social media influencers, who sends him a video or does a video from his prison cell that goes viral, the amount of young boys that think that's cool, that don't mind going to prison. And like I said, and I stand on what I said in that video, is that once you're arrested once and you get a criminal record, a lot of these, you know, I stood up in a class once, Jesse, and I said to them, right, put your hands up and tell me how long you think a criminal record lasts. Right, in the year 11, boys, yeah? And they said, until you're 21. And I said to them, is that what you're being told? Until you're 21. And I said to them, no, it's until your 99th birthday. That's when they expunge that criminal record. And the shock. So my thing is this, is that social media, and when I said earlier that I think it's the tool of the devil, I do. I think that it's being used to influence the mind of not just children with autism, but in fact, social media influences the world. It just influences us in different ways. It tells some people that they have 5,000 friends. And those very same people on a Friday night are sat in their room, the loneliest people on the planet. But on social media, you got 5,000 friends. And that's what the problem is that these young boys listening to this music, and we spoke to women last night on the platform that felt that they were being degraded right there in front of right there on social media, right there on YouTube. You know, it's taking it back years and years of hard work that women have had to have done to become established. Exactly. Has now been ruined by two, quote, rappers who receive 111 million views. So you're absolutely right. With this Rap to Prison pipeline, I think it's a workshop you should do. I think you should. I seriously believe that you should do that as a workshop and get a load of young men in there who think rap is cool and then break it down to them, because I've been saying this for so many years.
Can I say something as well, right? I don't know, Max, have you got anything to say? Because I know I've gone on.
Max. You
have anything to say, man?
No, I think you're right. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of commercialization. You know, celebrity kind of world. You know, it's how, for instance, YouTubers make their money. You know, they recommend things online that they may have never have used, and their fans will eat it up and go, oh well, such and such uses this, and such uses that. To the point where I heard a story where someone basically wanted to get big on YouTube, and what he done was he went out and loaned a Ferrari, he loaned a nice penthouse, and he just filmed a video going, look guys, look at my house, look at my car, look at this, look at that. Loads of people, loads of young people tuning in, oh that's cool, this is cool, that's cool. Tuned in, thought he owned it, and he made enough money, you know, to then go out and one day do it. But what you see online isn't real. A lot of people are fake. A lot of people are personas. A lot of people aren't what they say they are. You know, a lot of collaborations on YouTube actually probably happen because one of their agents have said, oh, you know, he's got such and such views, you've got such and such views, I think this collaboration could work. And it would be beneficial for both of you. What you're starting to see is a lot of YouTubers, a lot of media stars making their way onto television. The one thing that they once despised is now becoming their mortal
bread and butter. Yeah.
And, you know, that's slowly but surely happening, and it will do as they get older. You know, they are, no offence to anyone, but they are now the old person on the internet that somehow needs to be the young person on the television. So they will quickly make that move. But you're right, you know, there's lots of YouTubers out there that have came out with books and then they found out to be ghostwriters and they haven't even wrote the book. And what I worry about is the influences we have online. You know, I look at, sorry to say, but I look at the Logan Pauls and the Jake Pauls of the world and I think, my God, you are a millionaire and you decide to go out and loit while the death of George Floyd was happening and he got arrested for it. And I'm thinking, you are a millionaire. You do not need to be going out, to, you know, breaking windows and all this stuff just to get stuff, which I believe was the intention. You got his brother who thought it was acceptable to film a dead body in the forest for views, who hung himself, and even went as far as to monetize his apology video. So he was still making and he offers sorry. So, yeah. I think there is a big question, as Jesse's mentioned, is, you know, are rappers and even artists in general actually being those, you know, all their lyrics, you know, to commercialise, you know, another product. I heard a rapping song the other day, and all he kept going on about was McDonald's and stuff.
It's crazy.
And all I wanted was a McDonald's, and I thought, how kind of, you know, what's the word?
Subliminal.
Subliminal messaging, yeah, is that. It's like, my God, I was driving and I was like, oh, I really fancy McDonald's. I was thinking, my God, I've just heard it like 10 times on the radio. That's why I want a Big Mac. So, yeah.
It really is worrying, because I remember growing up and I used to go to the cinema a lot. And then I remember watching a documentary about how they would sneak in one frame, which was a hot dog, you know, in between the film, just a single frame that was a hot dog and a Coca-Cola. And then you'd be watching this film, and then all of a sudden you fancied a hot dog and a Coca-Cola. And then all of a sudden it was like in a cinema, everyone started getting up to go and get their hot dogs and their Coca-Colas. And this was years ago. And you start wondering, okay, you used it then. Now we've got digital media, and you're an IT man, so you know that it's all layers. So you know that you could put information upon information upon information. And so we don't even know whether or not we don't even have to. Do we have to see the Big Mac now? Do we even have to see it? Because somewhere in those layers could be the branding from McDonald's.
Yeah.
You know, for better want of a brand.
It's all about association, isn't it? You know, we see now, you know.
Yeah. I'm hungry.
When we go McDonald's, you know, it's all about that initial quick branding, quick anything. That's why when you see food in adverts, they always make sure the food looks better than what it actually is. You know, I always think it's false advertising. You know, you look at a burger, they wedge paper, you know, they wedge things, sponge between the
spray it with water, the fruit is...
Exactly. Cereal, they put glue in so the cereal stays above the milk, you know, so everything looks better and appeasing on the eye, when actually, you know, I'm all for a kebab, right? But a kebab is probably the worst food you can ever look at. And I'm not
Max, did you say kebab?
Yeah. If you think, Paul, have you ever saw someone try and make the kebab look nice? Because I haven't, because I don't think it's yes. It's and that is what it is. So,
that's quite funny. That's very good. Everybody go out, eat kebabs. This is real food, real. But you're absolutely right. You know, we live in a society now where you have so many filters that when you see somebody in public, you're like, oh my God, that's really you. It's really, you look so different on social media. So just taking it back to the topic, which is autism, and what we're speaking about here, because you're quite well versed on that. But what about the teenager or that young boy or girl who has autism and is flooded with all this information because they're spending more and more time exposed to it? How do we support them?
We have to. What we have to really do is we have to educate them in terms of, because the thing people understand about autism is while not always the case, is the same thing with the minds of like autistic people. They have either a visual mind, a number mind, or let's say a numeric mind, better word. You know, an auditory mind, things of that nature. Very differences. Sometimes it's all three together. Whatever it is, it varies. The thing is when someone is ingesting social media, it's a very visual thing. What a lot of people don't know about people with autism is that they have something called a dopamine abnormality, right? Okay. And basically what a dopamine abnormality is basically more dopamine, or basically, you know, neurotransmitters more than let's say a neurotypical. So they could be more prone to things like addiction, things of that nature.
Yeah.
Right. So it could be, you know, if it's anything visual, you know, it could be, you know, pornographic pictures. It could be, you know, even simple things like Instagram models. It could be, there's so many, you know, things that they think, and they need to be educated on how it affects them, and basically how it will, and what is actually happening during that time and that process. Because I try, someone actually sent me Instagram of these two boys rapping about some really just messed up stuff, and I said, don't send me that stuff. And I told them, look, I told them, look at what they're listening to. Do you think that is really best for you? You know, and you know, you've got the Instagram models, and I even have another theory with that. With, you know, how you got the rapper to the rapper, well, it's the prison to rapper pipeline. I also have the prison to Instagram model pipeline, where people don't really think about it. And there's some things that I can't say on there that I definitely know that is going on, that is very, very bad about what these Instagram models are actually doing.
Exploitation.
Yeah, and I can't really say it's too sensitive to say this on this platform. But the thing is that's another thing that we need to educate, because everyone, like you said, it's all perception. You know, they see the nice beaches, they see the nice countries, they see the nice cars, they see the nice houses. But what did they do to get that? Or do they even have that?
There you go.
You see, not all is told on social media.
Social media is easy to paint the illusion of you living your best life. It's so, you know, even if you are depressed, even if you are something special, if anybody can paint their best life, yeah, because, you know, if you don't look good, you can put a filter on. If you can even key out the backdrop so it looks like you're in a car showroom, you could be doing anything. And I think that's really, really dangerous, because it's exactly what you're saying. These young people are being influenced by an illusion of what they could have. And there's no real hard evidence or strategy of how you can make that legally, because it's so quick. So if you want a Ferrari, or if you want some gold chains, or if you want that bad looking girl there, yeah, there's no, okay, this might take a career to do it. Mm-hmm. Everything is, do it by next week. Do it by the week after. Do it by the next, in fact, I'm going to go as far as saying, do it by your next post. And that's what the problem is. Do it by the time you post next. So you had the Ferrari, now post the Rolex. And that's how we're living. There's no in between. And so for me, my danger is that young people will continue, because, you know, these platforms, Jesse, are just going to get worse and worse, because it's an attention economy. That's one word my wife likes to use. It's an attention economy, where they are buying our attention, and we're, you know, and our commodities that we are selling everything that we have, which is data, back to them for free.
So I just saw the question. I could answer that question, or if you want, you can do it, Max, if you want it. If you look in the Q&A. Yeah. By Daniel Aldrich.
Yeah, Max, go.
I think what can be done really is one of the things I wanted to point out was people with autism are very good at masking. We learn to do it throughout our lives because it helps us get out of situations that we necessarily don't know how to handle. And I think the whole change with COVID and social media, and the worry is people potentially may start masking themselves to these celebrities, to these fake people, to these fake facades that we see. And that's the dangerous side, because they're not normal people. The people in this chat room today are normal people. You know, we all have morals. We all know what's right. We all know what's wrong. We don't have, I suppose, that kind of millionaire bank account that could get us out of trouble by saying something, you know, outrageous or doing something outrageous. You know, we are, I would say, even though we have differences and we have diversities, we are the norm, you know, of normal, if there is such a thing. As, you know, these celebrities have stylists, they have managers, they have agents, they have publicists, they have all of this that's making sure that they are not in trouble, that they're not doing wrong things, that they're promoting the right things, they're saying the right things. And I just think it's really important that one, that we tell people with autism, you know, that not everything you see on the internet is real. Not all these social media influences are real, and even though you might look up to them, it's great. And, you know, by but by all means, look up to them for the right things and the good morals that they have. But just be aware that it might not actually be the case. You know, protect and monitor as much as we can. Getting back onto Snapchat, that scares me is it's basically an app which allows you to send a photo and it deletes after 30 seconds. And I just think that's probably a predator's best tool. You know, if you are, you know, looking to have a conversation with a child and not let the parents know, Snapchat, you know, unfortunately deletes the evidence right for you, you know, and you can find someone's Snapchat on their Facebook. You know, it's very easy. Go onto someone's Facebook. They probably have their Snapchat, their Twitter, all their social media in their bio. You can then add them from that. Now you've got access to someone's Snapchat who you've never met, and any evidence that is there is deleted straight away. And that's the danger. And that could be found out by just simple things like people posting, you know, first day back at school with their uniform on, which Jesse said at one of our conferences before. You know, so now you know what school that person goes to. Go onto their Facebook, add them on Snapchat. Do you go to such and such school? Oh, I'm joining there next September. What's it like? You just have this conversation. Snapchat keeps deleting it, delete. And whoever thought of an app, let's face it, I mean, I always say this to you, Paul, let's face it, whoever came up with the idea, let's create an app that deletes a photo or a conversation after 30 seconds. I mean, I always think it's to solicit something that you don't want to see.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, you know, whoever thought this was a good idea, and the minimum age that you can have is 13 to go on this, I think is terrible. So I think it is about educating and letting our young people know that. And actually, if you're going to let them be on a social media, if they're of an age where you think it is potentially dangerous, one, make sure you as a parent that you're sharing online is safe. You know, for instance, if you're going to share a photo, you know, Tiffany back at school, make sure, you know, the school isn't...
Really good point. Yeah.
Talking about children, right? Something that I've seen this especially on the gram, right? I remember telling one individual, because I've been a youth worker for years, right? Just trying to remember. Yeah, that's it, right. So there was this time where I've noticed that a lot of young mothers or things of that nature, they make these I think it's like they make these private social media accounts and they put their child on it, right? And I know there's something that really bothers me about that, right? I remember there was this time, I think this was in 2019, before I definitely met you guys, right? There was this beauty pageant going on. It was like this pageant for babies, right? I don't know if you remember it, right? It was like a pageant for babies. It was this online thing, right? I can't remember what it was. And they were literally posting their Instagram handles, right? So that they could view these children to basically vote for these children to win this so-called beauty pageant, right? And I thought that was very, very strange, right? And I was thinking, that's very, very dangerous, right? Especially on, you know, even if it's Snap, it doesn't really matter which platform it is, the mechanism, because they know that, yeah, there's a child online who potentially could be vulnerable, right? And where you're just going to show the whole world your child. Yeah. But the number one priority for children, if you're a parent, is for your own safety. Do you understand where I'm coming from? Like, I, you know, in a way, I could go as far as to say that's somewhat child abuse. I could go down that route because
it's definitely safeguarding. It's definitely a safeguarding issue. Yeah.
Safeguarding issue. And that kind of segues into child abuse, because the thing is children can't defend themselves. They're basically defenseless. So if you bring down someone's defense, right? Even more when they're defenseless, that can make them very, very vulnerable. Because I remember the pageants. Like I remember it showing up on Facebook. Like there was one single, like yeah, she was a single mother, right? And she had a child there, and she was the child was autistic, and things of that nature. And she tried to put, we're no longer friends because we had a massive disagreement over something, right? It was happening on Facebook, and she put her there, and the autistic child on in this pageant, and I'm just like,
why would you do that?
Why would you do that to your child? Let alone put them on social media and have their own private account. Now, you having you and your child together on Instagram, I'll give some leeway to that, right?
Yeah.
Go with the child and whatever, but trying to make your child look like a fashion accessory, because that's what it feels like, kind of rubs me the wrong way. What do you Max and Paul, what do you think?
Well, it's amazing because I made a video the other day about Facebook itself. Let's call it FB because we don't want to get go down any legal routes. And how they have and promote groups which are I'm going to be careful how I say this, right? How they have, host and promote groups that specifically talk and share images about child love. I don't know if I made myself clear. Yeah. And these, at the time of making this video about this one particular group, it had 22,000 members in 3 days on the same platform. And it was almost like, it was one of my less, you know what's interesting? It was one of my less viewed videos. And that always interested me. It's almost like, because I pointed it out, the algorithms knew and they suppressed it and kept it in a community where only certain people saw it. But the particular group had over 22,000 in days. And they were sharing images, way more specific than school uniform badges. They were sharing images of bodies on that particular platform. And they were, the comments went on for days. And literally somebody brought it to my attention and I said, I'm going to do a video about this because I was able to type the name in and it came up. Do you want to join? And so that's another area. But I think, what's really interesting about this talk today is that, for all of the talking about social media that we do, is, like I said, when I go back to Max, it was Max's talk which spurred me, and also you, Jesse, your passion about social media, which spurred me to create FOAM, which is Freedom of Adverse Media, which is a safeguarded social media platform, which won't get the traffic like these guys. Mm-hmm. However, when you're on it and your child's on it, that all the content on there is monitored, and also monetized. Sorry. So this talk here, I think I'm going to speak to Vanessa. This needs to go into number 2. This is, this is how we need to talk and address these topics, because we are talking at it from the perspective of we are really passionate about where this thing is going. And I believe that we're in a time now in society where if we don't talk about this and this goes amiss, we are going to face the worst time of our life, which is not evolution, it's going to be devolution.
Mm-hmm. That's very real.
Yeah, we're in a digital world now, as somebody said that's true. But guys, I know it's 8 o'clock now and it is my dinner time, so I'm going to jump out of here. I have to say though, and I'm going to get on to Vanessa, I know she's listening.
I'm here, right?
Part two.
Well, I'll wait for Max and Jesse, because as I said, I just wanted us just to get this out of the way, because September's coming now. We're going to be going back into this. Are they going to go back to school? So I think we've got to look at social safety, street safety, mental health, you name it, because again, a lot of people still don't realise for 6 weeks holidays, before that we had the lockdown, families that still have not been given the support that they deserve. So we're going to have a lot of families who may, as I said earlier, who may have people who've gone through domestic violence that have, it's all been undercover, because you had the mother the other day, took her child's life. Can't make a judgment on that, because at the end of the day, lots of families are complaining they've not had no help, no support, and it's for us doing these online Zooms, it's kept a lot of families going.
Absolutely.
We got to look, and that's why I think it's important as well. I need more father figures, male representatives as well, because at the moment, a lot of mothers said one time they didn't even know autistic people existed until they got onto Zoom. They saw Jessie, they saw Max, they saw Jackie, they saw all these other autistic people have been brought to the forefront. So I think right now, like I said to Jessie as well, and even Max, we need to make sure that there's a way that there's an income as well coming in, because we are doing this in our spare time. And, you know, and there is a service that may have to be on digital support, that a lot of autistic people right now, parents need to know they got somebody they can speak to, or you got autistic people that want someone they can talk to. Because if the parents are in denial about autism, just like how, you know, like how you got NSPCC, you got helpline, is that if the children have got no one to talk to, we need to have a system that they can pick up the phone and talk to somebody. I know, Paul, you gave me a young lady that you've been mentoring, and because she came now to a young lady, you said, Vanessa, I can't do it no more. Can you speak to her? She was suicidal. And then all of a sudden she started coming to talk to me. So it means that it doesn't matter if it's 12 o'clock in the night, 1 o'clock in the morning. It's about making sure that young autistic people, even autistic adults, have got somebody they can talk to. I mean, I got somebody on here that got in contact with me from Canada. Again, I want to make sure that we connect to the people around the world, because I've got people from all around the world coming to me now. And we've got to make sure we can join the dots, that everyone can say, look, if I can't help, there's somebody else that can help. You know, so for me right now, and Jessie and Max know, I'm about community, but we know that we've got a lot of Black autistic people out there right now who are not coming out because they feel they're going to be judged. And their mental well-being is going to be strained again because they're not being heard. And I think having these online Zooms, I know I've got in a Spectrum on here who deals with autism for autistic adults, who's on there from Croydon. He helps in a great way as well. So it's about making sure that autistic adults have got a voice as well. So today is not just about us finishing here. It's about just making sure that those who joined us, those who did register but didn't come on, which always happens, is that we are going to do a part 2. And as I said, Max, Jessie, we're going to connect. Let's do this. That if I'm not on here, people are going to get to know you guys, that you can set up your own platforms. Because again, and Paul agrees, you don't need me because you lot are doing it already. You guys
are so powerful.
No, you lot are so powerful. But I think what you lot need is just to know that once people see your voices and they hear you, then we have like a little signposting, because there's lots of young people right now, like Paul, when an autistic person has been stopped by the police because of county line and the parent doesn't know who to talk to, we need to have the young autistic person to educate that parent to say, look, like my son Nathaniel, I can go to you and Max when Nathaniel's doing my head, and like Paul as well. All 3 of you are in my son's lives. And that's the difference. But some mothers don't have that because they don't know who to go to. But I can say, hand on my heart, I don't have to go to some of the local office organizations because they don't get it. Because not every autistic child wants to go to the ordinary local group. They want to be with somebody, as they say, look normal. But we know what the word when they say that word normal. You know, Paul knows my son, but my son's not a child that can walk down the street. So when we talk about, again, part 2, stop and search, section 60, we got to talk about the county line more in depth. We've got to talk about relationships, because right now, when you've got young people saying, I want to have a girlfriend, I want to have a boyfriend, but if the parents say, no, you're too young, who am I to tell my son that if he did ask me? So we have to be, as mothers as well, Black mothers as well, to be open to other voices. Yes, our young people are vulnerable. I talk about my daughters as well. We need to make sure that there's a platform. And at the moment there is, but we need to all come together now. And I know you guys are always there for me, but I think Jessie and Max, you lot can have your own platform. I'm telling you, you can have your own platform.
They can do it.
Huh?
They can do it.
No, you lot can do it. I'm telling you, you lot can. You know, 2 different perspectives. You 2 guys come on and you just do your little chat, and then you just come with topics, get people to go going. But between the 2 of you, you two are so powerful because you've got two different perspectives where Max, you're an actor, you know, you can do, I mean, you've done stuff for Paul, as Paul said, you came out with a different character, no one would have believed. Gentle Giant, he became the mean doctor. Then you got Jesse now where, like Jesse said, personal trainer, he's very good at what he's done. He said it, explained it, because of social media, because of not going out, he doesn't want to go out. So he's a bit like my son, doesn't want to go out nowhere. My son, in a way, has put on weight, but at the same time, because Nathaniel's put on weight. So it's like, we do need to make sure that we are looking at the well-being of our autistic people and the families. But for me, it's making sure that the men in particular, black boys in particular, with social safety, because when you talk about the illegal parties, a lot of people are still mixed messages.
They don't get it.
Government, I know we've got to go. The government need to understand, one, that when you're saying about there's a disproportionate amount of black people or people of color dying from COVID, but you're having the protest, mixed messages, because in the end, what we're having now, there's no face mask.
It's confusion.
So when you've got my children saying, Mum, if they're not wearing face masks, then I can go out in ordinary. You go onto the trains. I'm struggling because I got asthma. It's painful when you've got that thing on your face, but we need to find a way of keeping autistic people safe, no matter where they are from in the community. But right now, we need real information that's going to be translated to all communities, because remember, language is a problem in some communities because autism doesn't mean nothing to them, because they see a child run down the road or do something, and I'm going to say it very openly, they want to discipline. As they say, we're not doing firm boundaries. But we need to understand now, autism is not going to go away. We need to make changes. And I think the way we're doing it right now is by talking. And I'm thanking those who stayed on to listen to this webinar. Because as I said, we never know what we're going to say. Because as I said, autism for every individual is very different. And we don't want to say, this is the way. It's about what and how we can work together to make sure that every autistic person, every parent that's accepting the autism is helping that autistic person to make sure they're not getting caught up in the county line. And that's something Paul's going to do another time. So
we're going to dig down into that one.
Home20.com. Yeah. If you can find Paul McKenzie on his Elephant in the Room? Elephant in the Room,
Wednesday nights at 10. Breakfast show is Tuesday morning at 9 and Friday morning at 9. We break down stories and we just basically have a real talk session.
Max, Max has done it. So as I said, we can find all of us on Twitter. As you said, Jesse's not on Facebook. He's on Instagram and he's on Twitter. And with
I'll explain it. Yeah, just a brand new brand, as I'll say, because I'm building it right now. Just type in official Jesse McQuilkin on all social media, well, not all, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. You'll see me pretty much there. So that's where you'll see me. I'll put it in the chat. Let me just put it in the chat. Very simple. Is just put official and my first name, my second name, and you will get me on Instagram, and I will be pretty much there. So fantastic. That's what I've got to say.
Thank you, everybody. I know that Max has been at work, and I know Max is tired because I can see that he was dozing off. But I thank everybody for joining us. And as I said, there will be a part 2, and I'll let everybody know. And thanks for joining, and see you later.
Fantastic, guys. Bye, guys.
Hey, Carol.